Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a wildcard draft for round 2 in World Cup Fantasy. So let's get started. So on a wildcard in round 2, you're going to need to be targeting the fixtures for round 2 and round 3 when you're building your team. So because of that, we're going to take a look at the clean sheet odds and the projected goals for round 2 and round 3 in this video. And the projections I'm going to be using are going to come from FPL Joe's website again. So I will leave a link to that down in the description. So let's start off with the clean sheet odds. Like I've done in the past when looking at 2 rounds for clean sheet odds, the projected clean sheet odds added together all add up to at least 90%. That was the criteria I set to be on the list. So at the top we've got Spain, and then it's Brazil, then France, then England, then Belgium, then Argentina, Morocco, and then finally Croatia. So now taking a look at the goalkeepers, what you might have noticed when we were just looking at those clean sheet odds is that the list was significantly smaller than some of the other lists we've looked at for round 1 and round 2. When you add round 3 into it, it seems to make the list a lot smaller. There's not as many teams to be targeting. So that made it quite hard to find goalkeepers that were cheap and under 5%. A lot of them seem to either be a bit more expensive and under 5%, or the cheaper ones are all already over 5%. So that made it quite difficult to find some goalkeepers for this wildcard, but I did find 3 that I think look like good options. So the first one is Pickford from England. So he is quite expensive at 4.8 million, and he's not going to be under 5% owned, but with a 51% chance of a clean sheet in round 2 and a 54% chance of a clean sheet in round 3, and with him probably being England's most nailed defender, I think that makes him a good option. Then the next 2 goalkeepers were options that I could find that were under 5%. So the first one is Bunu from Morocco. So he is 4.7 million, so still a little bit expensive unfortunately, but his ownership is just 3.4%, and Morocco have got a 45% chance of a clean sheet in round 2, followed by a 50% chance in round 3. And then the third goalkeeper that I've got on my list is Wildcard from Croatia. I spoke about him in my last video and I've got him in my team. So he is 4.5 million, just 1.6% owned, and has a 47% chance of a clean sheet in round 2 and then a 45% chance in round 3. The only thing to consider with these goalkeepers, and what is a little bit annoying, is that Pickford and Wildcard are in the same group. So this means that in round 3 they're going to be playing their matches at the same time. They're not playing against each other, they're playing against each other in round 1, but they still will be playing at the same time as each other in round 3. So because of that, you can only pick one of those 2. So essentially from this list, it's one of Pickford or Wildcard with Bunu from Morocco. So then looking at the goalkeepers that made it into this wildcard draft, we've got Wildcard and Bunu. So like I just said, I think you should pick Bunu with one of Wildcard or Pickford, and I've gone for Wildcard because he's a little bit cheaper and is going to qualify for the scouting bonus as well. So even though England's clean sheet odds are higher, I think that makes Wildcard a better option. Okay, and then now moving on to some of my favourite defenders. So the first defender we've got is Hakimi from Morocco. He's the most expensive defender in the game at 6 million. His ownership is currently 22.8%, and Morocco have a 45% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2 and then a 50% chance in round 3. Hakimi is a really attacking defender. We've seen him get plenty of attacking returns for PSG in the past and Morocco, so I think that makes him a really nice option. Next we've got Upamecano from France. So he is priced at 5.3 million and his ownership is currently 4.8%, so that means that if he can stay under 5%, he is going to qualify for the scouting bonus. France have got a 67% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2 and then a 38% chance in round 3, so he looks like a better option for round 2 than for round 3, but I think on a wild card he still looks like a good option to include. Next I've got Kabasi from Spain. So Spain have got a 68% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2 and then a 41% chance in round 3. I've mentioned a few times about picking Spain defenders and I think them being good options for my videos for round 1 and round 2. looking at round 2 and round 3 together, that still applies. But like I have said before, Spain still haven't played their round 1 game yet. They are going to be playing it tonight. So hopefully once we've seen that and seen the minutes some of the players play, I'll be able to change to putting a fullback on this list. But for now, I'm still sticking with Kabasi. Next, I've got O'Reilly from England. So he is priced at 4.7 million. His ownership is currently 11.9%, and England have got a 51% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2, followed by a 54% chance in round 3, which makes England defenders a really good option for this wildcard. Similar to with the Spain defenders, I think it's really hard to know which defenders are going to be nailed for England to start all of the games, but with O'Reilly being able to play at left back or in midfield, I think that makes him quite likely to start all the games, and he has a lot of attacking threats. I think that makes him the best option. My next defender is Santos from Brazil. In my last video, the Brazil defender that I spoke about was Danilo, but he didn't end up starting for Brazil in round 1, so now I'm not 100% sure whether he'll start in round 2 or in round 3. So I've decided to change my Brazil defender for this list and go for Santos. He is 4.3 million, 0.5% owned, and with a 60% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2, then a 47% chance in round 3. I think that makes him look a really good option. Next is Tagliafico from Argentina. So he is also priced at 4.3 million. I mentioned in my last video that I think this is a really popular price point for some good defenders, and that still applies here. So he is 1.3% owned, so he's going to qualify for scouting bonus, and Argentina have a 45% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2, and then a 56% chance in round 3. My next defender is Stanisic from Croatia. So he is also priced at 4.3 million, just 0.6% owned, so definitely going to qualify for scouting bonus, and Croatia have a 47% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2, and then a 45% chance in round 3. And then for my final defender, I always like to try and find one or two to include that are under 4% if you need a really cheap option, and so for this video the option I found for that is Ngoy from Belgium. So he is 3.7 million and he is only 0.5% owned as well, so he's also going to qualify for scouting bonus, and Belgium have got a 50% chance of keeping a clean sheet in round 2, and then a 54% chance in round 3. So if you're looking for a budget option for round 2 and round 3, then I think he is definitely the one to go to. Okay, now taking a look at the 5 defenders that made it into the wildcard draft. So these are Kabasi, Santos, Upamecano, Tagliafico and Ngoy. So this is following that 2 premiums and then 3 differential cheap defender structure that I've talked about before. So you've got Kabasi and Upamecano as the 2 premium options. Upamecano does actually qualify for scouting bonus as well currently, and then with Kabasi, once we're a little bit more confident in who the starting fullbacks could be in round 2 and round 3 for Spain, I'd maybe look to change Kabasi to one of the fullbacks, but for now we'll stick with Kabasi. And then we've got Santos, Tagliafico and Ngoy as the 3 differential cheaper defenders in the team. Now moving into the projected goals. So to make it onto the list, the team needed to have a minimum combined of 3.5 projected goals for round 2 and round 3. And so the teams that did make it onto the list are Brazil at the top, and then Spain, France, England, Belgium, Argentina, Portugal, Morocco, Netherlands, Ivory Coast and then Germany. Now taking a look at some of my favourite midfielders for round 2 and round 3. First we've got Vinicius Jr. from Brazil. So he is priced at 10 million, his ownership is 13.2% and Brazil have got 3.11 projected goals in round 2 and then 2.01 projected goals in round 3. Vinicius Jr. obviously scored in round 1 for Brazil against Morocco, so I think he looks like a nice option for round 2 and round 3. The next midfielder is Elise from France. So he is priced at 9.5 million. His ownership is 34.2% and France have got 2.96 projected goals for round 2 and then 1.67 projected goals in round 3. Elise should be on some of the set pieces, so the free kicks and corners for France, and so I think that makes him look a really good option. Next is Bruno Fernandes from Portugal. So he is priced at 8.5 million, 50% owned, and then Portugal have got 2.47 projected goals in round 2 and 1.47 projected goals in round 3. I think Bruno Fernandes has been on every video that I've spoken about for World Cup Fantasy so far, and that is because at 8.5 million. I think that is just such a cheap price for everything that he offers, and he's 50% owned, which I'm pretty sure makes him the highest owned player in the game. So I'm just going to keep including him because I think he is one of the best players to own. Next, since Brazil's projected goals at 3.11 and 2.01 are quite high, I've got another option, so that is Rafinha. So he is 8.2 million and he is 22.1% owned. Rafinha has got all the penalties and set pieces for Brazil, so if you're looking for a cheaper option with those more guaranteed routes to points, then he's a good option. Vinicius Junior is obviously a more explosive open play option from Brazil. My next midfielder is De Bruyne from Belgium, so he is priced at just 7.5 million, 5.7% owned, and Belgium have got 2.02 projected goals in round 2 and then 2.29 projected goals in round 3. Then next we've got Wirtz from Germany, so he is also 7.5 million. His ownership is 22.7%, but I do expect this to actually drop a little bit because I think some people are going to sell him after round 1 because Germany's best fixture is out the way. But with 1.93 projected goals in round 2 and 1.68 projected goals in round 3, I think he could still be a good option. And then I've got a few cheaper differential midfielders to finish off the list. So the first one is Saibari from Morocco. He is 6.8 million, only 0.7% owned, and Morocco have got 1.54 projected goals in round 2 and then 2.34 projected goals in round 3. Sabari was the scorer of Morocco's goal against Brazil and he had quite a good game for them, so I think he looks like a nice option. And then finally I've got Kessie from the Ivory Coast, so he is just 5.9 million, only 0.2% owned, and then the projected goals are 0.9 in round 2, but then they go up to 2.74 in round 3. So the Ivory Coast players look like probably better ones to be targeting just in round 3, not in round 2. But with Kessie being the penalty taker, I still think he could be a nice option to put on the wild card. Then taking a look at the 5 midfielders that made it into the draft. So we've got Rafinha, De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Sabari and Florian Wirtz. With Rafinha against Vinicius Junior, I think it is really close between them, but the main reason Rafinha is in this team is firstly for the budget. I wouldn't have been able to afford Vinicius Junior in this team, and secondly because he is on penalties and set pieces. If you do think Vinicius Junior is like a significantly better option and you'd much rather have him, then you could obviously downgrade one of Kabasi or Upamecano to another one of the cheaper defenders we spoke about that didn't make it into the team, and that should give you the budget to upgrade Rafinha to Vinicius Junior. And then finally moving into the forwards, so the first forward on this list is Mbappe from France, so he is priced at 10.5 million, his ownership is 49.3%. France have got 2.96 projected goals in round 2 and then 1.67 projected goals in round 3. Mbappe is another player that has been in all of my World Cup fantasy videos, and that is going to continue to be the case because with France's projections and Mbappe being the penalty taker for France, I think he is almost an essential option. Next, I've got Kane from England. So he is also priced at 10.5 million. His ownership is 36.1%, and I am expecting that to go up quite a bit by the round 2 deadline, as I think a lot of people are going to be selling Haaland and buying Harry Kane. England have got 2.24 projected goals in round 2 and then 2.39 in round 3. So he looks like a really good option being the penalty taker for England. Next, we've got Oyarzabal from Spain. So he is priced at 8.1 million, 19.9% owned, and Spain have got 2.96 projected goals in round 2 and then 1.78 in round 3. Oyarzabal will probably have the majority of the penalty share in round 2, as I still expect Yamal's minutes to be managed in round 2, but when it comes to round 3, it looks like the expectation is that Yamal is going to be ready to start again and play quite a lot of minutes. So at that point, Oyarzabal will probably lose his penalties and maybe not be as good as an option. But for a wild card where you're looking to target both match days, I still think he looks like a nice option. Next, we've got Gakpo from the Netherlands. So he is priced at 7.7 million. He is only 3.9% owned. The Netherlands have got 1.84 projected goals in round 2 and then 2.01 projected goals in round 3. Gakpo is the penalty taker for the team, so I think that makes him a good option, and with him being 3.9% owned, he is also going to qualify for scouting bonus. And then finally, I always like to include a cheap differential forward that you could put on your team if you're going for a different structured team to what I like to go for that requires having a cheaper forward. And for this video, for targeting round 2 and round 3, one of my favourite options is Diomande from Ivory Coast. So he is just 5.9 million, he's only 1.2% owned. Ivory Coast's projected goals are only 0.9 for round 2, but then they are 2.74 for round 3. So he's a much better option for round 3 than he is for round 2. But he had a really good game yesterday against Ecuador. So I think you could still put him in your team for round 2 and round 3, knowing that round 3 is going to be the better fixture. And then looking at the 3 forwards that have made it into the draft, so we've got Oyarzabal, Mbappe and Kane. I think these are going to be the 3 forwards that I actually own going into round 2, because I currently have Oyarzabal and Mbappe, and I'm looking to do Haaland to Kane. And I think they are the best 3 forwards you can get for going into round 2. You've obviously got Mbappe and Kane that are going to be the penalty takers for their team, and then Oyarzabal should have some penalty share for the time that Yamal isn't on the pitch during mainly round 2 and maybe a little bit in round 3. As you can see, there is 0.6 million in the bank with this team, so there is room to make some upgrades. If there's anywhere that you think is a weak spot that you don't like, there is a little bit of flexibility with it, but overall I think this does look like a good team. The only thing you've got to consider on this strategy, and something that I found really hard when making this team, is that a lot of these teams we are expecting to have probably qualified to the knockout stages by the time round 2 is finished, and that makes knowing who is going to start in round 3 really difficult, like Kane, Mbappe, Rafinha, Bruno Fernandes, some of the defenders. They could all get a rest to make sure they don't get injured for the knockout stages, and that is why for me I think a wildcard in round 3 strategy is probably better. But if you want to try and do something different, or you've had loads of injuries in your team and you need a wildcard, then this is probably what I would be going for. Just be prepared to maybe have to take a few hits in round 3 to deal with some of the potential rotation. Okay, and that is everything for today's video. If you found that useful, please give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. Something I keep forgetting to mention in my videos is that I have set up a mini league for World Cup Fantasy. So if you would like to join that, I'm going to leave a link to the mini league in the description so you can come and join me and compete against me. My next video is going to be my round 2 team selection. So in that video we're going to take a look at the booster that I'm going to be using for that round and some of my potential transfer plans as well. So that video is going to be coming out on Thursday morning, which is the day of the deadline for round 2. So hopefully I'll see you all then for that video. Bye.